Well, this is the studio, and this is where the work happens when it does. I have a background in architecture, and when I started making pots, it was functional pots, just learning how to throw on the wheel. But in India, fortunately or unfortunately, you cannot make a living as a functional potter because we don't really have a tradition to make functional glazed stoneware. And so, since the art world was happening at the same time, it was things were opening up. It was a good time to get into, non-functional sculptural work. So this is the space which sort of lends itself to personal individual exploration, which is what I do now. When I was still in architecture school, I traveled a bit in the Himalayan mountains, and I always felt a different vibe there. Something special was happening to me there. And that started feeding itself into the work that I did. But it's all anchored, I think, and in the Himalayas, and that's it's a mystical place, as well as I think when I first saw Chotan, the stupas in the mountains, something about the architect and me thought it was the perfect architectural shape, because it kind of combines the square base and the circular body, and then the triangular form. So it's like the square, the circle, the triangle. According to this painting in Zen, I think it's by Sengai. It's his model for the universe. Most of the making work happens here, spills out into this area, and this is essentially what I think of as the inspirational core, where the light is coming from. And so work, depending on what you're doing, work spreads out here. This part of the area is all glazed materials. And the reason I was looking for something which I wanted to show you is all these little glaze tests. And I do extensive testing because to reach the palette that I want to work with. And so these are all the materials which go into that. And then these are the buckets where you have all the glazes once they're made. And then they get onto the works. Most of them are sprayed on or trailed or applied with a brush. And anyway, that's a spray booth. These are kilns, which are both gas-fired. These are raw materials which go into clay over here. It's the messy area with the packing material, the raw materials which go into the clay, some kind of clay making. Most of our clay comes made from outside, but we reprocess it and we add some paper to it for some of the larger sculptures. One of the series that I always work with also is these, what I call the totems. And they are referring to street shrines in India, and how the culture of how something like this just comes up organically and starts growing, and before you see it, it grows into one big shrine, and it's got people stopping their cars in the middle of the road, and there's this whole first one structure comes up and then another structure. And I think as an architect as well, that interests me, how space gets built up in a city, co-opted and built up. It's no reason why this thing should be there, but maybe it starts around a tree which people find, is particularly holy, and there's some thread wrapped around a tree, and then it starts from there, and soon you have this huge thing happening. If you're familiar with the ceramic process, these are just raw. And there are two clay bodies on it. There's a porcelainous clay body, which is where I'll put the glazed strip of celadon in, and the rest is just this stoneware clay body, which is really rough. And in this case, it's combining like this stupa sort of form with this totemic element on top. And then once they're fired, once this is raw, and then they're fired, and they kind of come out this pinkish color. And after that, they're glazed again and then fired, and then they, come up in different colors. No, at this moment I can't locate it. Anyway, so I work with technically all sorts of different techniques. It's these are potter's wheels. They're piled up with these plaster molds. So I'm throwing on the potter's wheel. I'm using molds. I'm slab building, using a lot of stamps. Also, yes, this is interesting. All these stamps lying here. This is what feeds into my work. Yeah, it's just various things. It's keys, it's just elements from statues, whatever I might like, a seahorse, toys, gods of from various different pantheons. What's interesting about these is that in a sense these have been picked up from the street, the originals for these, and so you have these god images that you can pick up almost anywhere in the city if you're walking around on the road. And they're these real kitschy, you can buy them for like 25, 30 rupees and I don't know, some kind of resin maybe, and crudely carved. And so it's in a sense, the sacred has come down to the level of the mundane or the kitschy. And then I take those and make clay molds out of them, and then from those clay molds I put them into my work, and in a sense when you glaze them and sell it on again, you're sort of raising that the mundane into something elevated again through the work. The sacred and the profane is coming really from the same source as far as I'm concerned, so there's no real division. In places just outside of Kathmandu, you have these beautiful deities where the Hindu and the Buddhist deities are perfectly fused together. Nepali Bhairav statue with a Hanuman head on it, and they have a Shivling with instead of the Shiva on top, they have the Buddha on top. So it's fantastic to see all that, and it was all happening, and the cultures were all really coming from the same place. But now it's all this, there's a clear divide in the way people are perceiving things. The more I travel, I see that, the boundaries didn't really exist till very recently. And the boundaries are being made more pronounced, perhaps now. Yeah, so this is kind of how these work. So these are the Meditations on Love series, and Hanuman is a kind of the monkey god, and he's also very he stands for devotion in a sense, because he was completely devoted to Lord Ram. And also it's a figure that you can, I suppose, treat with a little more humorous treatment. You can't mess with some of the other ones as much as perhaps with the monkey god, because he it's a monkey god. So in this particular work, it's got it has these sutras running on top in script, and the sutras themselves, they are basically from this mystic Sufi poetry, something which is really coming from a depth which is difficult to fathom. And then you have inside this kind of kitschy heart and the Hanuman god against the heart. And in the heart, I have these printed, messages which you see in the media everywhere. So this one has call your nearest dealer, the commodifying spirituality and all of that. And there are these keyholes and this keys which kind of come out from within the holes when it's up on the wall. So essentially trying to find a way to access something deeper, to break through all of the all of the superficiality, and reach a deeper place. Yeah, they're all they well, yeah, there's a key here, but they have these keys popping out like these metal keys. So when they're finished, they have these sort of things popping out, and I'll show you something which is finished. And then they go up on the wall. So often I have this like a large sampling of these the paths, and then you just at the moment whatever might take your fancy, just fix up accordingly, just play around with them and see where you want to go with them. The work is definitely not reverential, it's about a search, essentially. It's about finding a space or experiencing and trying to project those experiences into some kind of visual language. Yeah.